What's up, team? I love you guys. I miss you guys. We got an interesting video today. We're going to be talking about Heidegger. We're going to be talking about significance, how it's disclosed. We're going to talk about What is a Woman, the documentary by Matt Walsh, and just the general question. Now, normally I'd put this in my Seeing the World Integrally video, but I'm testing out some different ways of titling my videos. I think I painted myself, or backed myself, I should say, into a little corner on YouTube. I've definitely done one on Substack, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be reading my most recent Substack article, which I think is pretty good. But man, quick rant about Substack real quick. So when I first started, right, I had 0 subscribers because I first started a month after I started my channel, and my channel now, it's not like it's huge by any means. In fact, it's very small. So when I first started, I had zero subscribers, essentially, maybe 1 at absolute max. And when I would release my articles, like Kill Rationalism, Before Rationalism Kills You, whatever it is, I would say an average between 100 views to 150, maybe even sometimes up to 200. Now, of course, on its own, that doesn't sound like that much, but for someone who just started, with someone with 0 subscribers and someone who's new, that's pretty good to me. Yeah, and this is Substack too. It's not like Twitter where you just scroll and it's like, oh, every time you scroll, it gets logged. You actually have to open it to an extent. So now I have 13 subscribers, which obviously isn't, a ton of people. I'm not saying that. But it is a 1,300% increase of 0. So I have 13 subscribers. I have more articles. And now my views are tanking. They're in the single digits sometimes. The only ones who read them are my subscribers, who I love. Keep reading them, please. I love you guys. I'm just confused as to, there seems to be an inverse a disincentive where when you have less subscribers, you get put in front of more people, but the second you do what you're supposed to do and earn subscribers, you get put in front of less people. It's very odd, very weird, and I don't like it. So Substack, you need to get your shit together. But today we're going to be talking about, like I said, what is a woman? I know it's not particularly topical, but we're going to be kind of responding of what is a woman significantly. Why does the left view the significance of a woman the way they do, and why does the right view it the way they do? And I want to be very clear, this is not going to be a particularly partisan video. This isn't going to be some screed or I don't even know if I'm going to give my opinion on this. I mean, well, we'll see. The point is, this isn't going to be the Democrats are trying to brainwash you and brainwash your children, and right-wingers want to send you back to the Handmaid's Tale. I'm not going to be ranting or anything like that. This is going to be a relatively impartial piece. But without further ado, let's just get right into it, because goddamn. Okay. So I'm, like most of my other Substack articles, I try to write them as comprehensively as possible, so I'm not going to take a ton of breaks to explain, because I'll explain later in the piece. So the title is What is a Woman Really? And my subtitle is, quote, A Woman's Only Human, This You Should Understand, by Aretha Franklin, from the song Do Right Woman, Do Right Man. I absolutely love that song. I adore that song. Aretha Franklin is beautiful. Please go listen to that song. Do Right Woman, Do Right Man. Whew, wow, beautiful. Okay, let's start. In 2022, conservative commentator Matt Walsh released a documentary titled What is a Woman?, in which he sought to expose what he perceived as the irrational nature of the current debate surrounding womanhood, gender, and social justice. Walsh has prided himself as a man who, quote, likes to make sense of things, unquote, which, as we will see, is precisely the problem. What Walsh and other rationalists cannot see is that the conversation reveals something far greater than what they can typically comprehend, which is to say, from the rational perspective. Not to say Matt Walsh is an idiot or anything like that. It's not a personal shot. Far greater than what they can typically comprehend. And if they remain stuck in their ways, they will be destroyed by the very monster they helped create. In fairness, much of the current discourse, like other attempts at achieving 4D integral consciousness, has regressed into deficient irrationality and pre-rationality. Much of the debate is, at best, poorly articulated and, at worst, an exhibition of nonsense. Worse yet, the subject matter has intensified the pre-rational instincts and feelings of the interlocutors to the point where they feel compelled to justify and apply their my goodness, excuse me. Let me try that again. Worse yet, the subject has intensified the pre-rational instincts and feelings of the interlocutors to the point where they feel compelled to justify and apply their ideology at all cost, even to the point of angrily denouncing and shaping their opponent. Should this continue, the participants are doomed. There is another way, however, one offered by Martin Heidegger and Jean Gebser. The former affords us knowledge of the disclosure of significance. The latter helps us integrate this knowledge into an even broader perspective, one that renders transparent the real quote-unquote foundations of the discussion of what it means to be a woman. And that is what we're talking about, significance. But by significance, Heidegger does not mean subjective feeling, nor a property attached to or a part of a thing. What he wants is not the significance of an object, but knowledge of how the significance can be disclosed at all. And that really is what we're talking about here. So the difference between someone like Matt and I is Matt and I agree that a lot of the conversation surrounding gender, social justice, non-binary, that what is a woman, that kind of stuff, I'll be real with you, it's a lot of irrational nonsense. I won't lie to you. The difference between Matt and I is we recognize it's irrational nonsense, but he can't see that this is an attempt at a transcendence into 4D integral consciousness. I can see that. Us base Jean Gebser followers, we can see that. So what we do is we say, look, what they're going after is pretty admirable, and what they're going after is venerable and desirable, and we should strive for that. How they're arguing it and the way it's sort of expression in the moment is ridiculous nonsense. We shouldn't really take this seriously. Or if we're taking it seriously, it's only to investigate that attempt at transcendence that is happening. Matt and the other members of the right, which are more or less rationalists, they can't see this. They think this is just this is what the left does, right? They're irrational, they're artistic, they're poetic. This is what they do. We build, the right builds order, knowledge, civilization, all this stuff, and the left just kind of comes in and ruins it. But they make good art. He's missing it. There's an attempt at transcendence here. Okay. When I walk into my kitchen, I see a mug. Both the object and its significance are co-present. But how is this significance disclosed? The object appears to me as a mug. That is, the significance is co-present. It's not just a random assortment of parts and pieces. It's not just ceramic and glass and with a weird handle. It's a mug. Not just a random assortment of parts. How do I perceive the quote-unquote mugness of the object? For Heidegger, the world isn't a collection of quote-unquote neutral objects that are interpreted by a detached neutral subject and imparted a rigid static significance, i.e. the rational way. So let's talk about that for a second. So neutral objects from a neutral subject, neutral in terms of the object seems to derive from the idea that we're not dealing with the thing itself, but its representation in the world of abstract conceptualization. And then a neutral subject is the rational idea that the ego is, in all meaningful sense, more or less divorced. He exists also in this detached domain of abstract conceptualization that is in the neutral metaphysical space. But of course, Heidegger, he says that's nonsense. We obviously belong to a world. You need to get out of the clouds, come back, embed yourself into reality, because this is ridiculous. And then, of course, what happens, right? So we have the object. Let's say it's my mouse. Well, this is what the mouse is. You just describe it, give it its rational definition, its rational essence, and there you go. That is what the significance of the mouse is. One, it's only one significance, which we'll get to. And two, the significance is set. It's static. I think you can see where this is going and when it comes to what is a woman. Rather, the significance of an object is disclosed by a network of dynamic, that is, according to time, relations. There's a contrast here. The way I just described and this. We'll explain more. Using our mug as an example, a mug cannot be understood without relation to another object, entity, or thing. These quote-unquote things function like nodes in a network, and we will refer to them as such from now on. So the main idea here is that the significance of any object, whether it's a mug or a woman, is disclosed via the network of relationships to nodes. And a node, like I said, is any object, entity, or thing that helps inform the significance of the object we're considering. If you don't like the term nodes, just think points, right? So what is the significance of the mug? Hopefully this will kind of bring it to life. Well, it must be able to pour a liquid or other viable substance from it. Thus, the mug has been connected to a node, liquid. So the mug does not stand on its own, right? Because if you can't pour a liquid from it or something similar to it, it's not really a mug, is it? In the same way that a refrigerator, if you can't make something cold in it, it's not really a refrigerator, is it? So in both examples, the mug has been connected to liquid, something else, not just the mug. Same thing with the fridge. The fridge has been connected to something else. In this terms, it would be coldness. Of course, rationally, this is a problem. The mug has to stand on its own, individual, separated, isolated, and distinct from others. If you follow my Kill Rationalism series or my Jean Gebser series, you will know this is textbook way that rationality brings or relates objects in the world to each other. Part of the significance of a mug is informed by its relation to another entity. To pour this liquid, there must be a human or animal actually engaging in the act. Similar to before, another node, humans, has been connected to the mug. If one is to pour from this mug, it must be small enough to grasp with, at minimum, both hands. Forklifts don't pour liquids from mugs. Another node, size and practicability, also informs the mug's significance. The examples listed thus far highlight the mug's rational significance. So we all have these nodes, and these nodes integrate in a network to help us perceive the disclosed rational significance. Now, this system of network, this network relationships, network of relations, let's say, it does apply rationally, but it also applies to other layers of significance. But, as we will see, the exclusive favoring of the rational perspective is quite the problem, as other layers of significance are also co-present and efficacious. This is, of course, the integral insight. In the same way that the magic structure and the mythic structure are co-present and efficacious with the mental structure and now the integral structure, same thing. There are other layers of significance that are co-present and efficacious in addition to the rational. For example, the mug may be a ritualistic symbol, the grail that pours the energy, coffee, that charges me and empowers me to conquer the day, and thus becomes special to me. Or perhaps the mug is the same one that my mother drank from, not realizing she was drinking from it the poison that would kill her. Ooh. The mug then discloses a negative significance. Here's the key point. Either way, another node, the subject psyche, has been connected to this network of significance. So we have the rational node that we've already discussed. And in addition to the rational node, we have the subject psyche, which also informs the significance of the mug. As example, it's no longer just a mug, it becomes your mug, right? It's the thing that energizes me. It's my favorite mug because it gets me started in the day. So we'll get there, but keep that in mind. Further, symbolism has another part to play. Perhaps the mug signifies technological advancement of man. We used to think the discovery of fire was the meridian of intellectual investigation, and now we've mastered it to such an extent that we use it to create mugs and glasses owned by most people. Another node, symbolic mythical resonance, has been connected to the network. So we've got another node in the network. Socially and culturally, everyone knows what a mug is used for. That is, everyone lives in a world of shared significance. Some use mugs as social symbols, as in The Office, where Andy excoriates Jim for drinking from his mug. The social significance is emphasized by the fact that mugs can be given as gifts, such as Michael Scott's World's Best Boss mug. This shared social space represents another node in the network. So we're going. We got another node that informs the significance. Historically, the mug is part of the lineage of ceramics. As such, its significance is partly disclosed by art history, in this case. Another node, past significance, emphasis on the time, is connected to our network of significance. I could go further, but I think I've made my point. The quote-unquote mugness of a mug is disclosed through its relationship to other objects, that is, to the nodes that constitute the network of significance, and not by separating, isolating, and removing it from its relational context. Any change in the nodes leads to a corresponding change in significance. I want to make this very clear. Okay, never mind. Those familiar with my broader project can see the obvious problem here. The rationalist, limited to the quantifiably measurable and consciously known, in addition to the fragmentary either-or nature of rationality, pits one layer of significance against another and is forced to choose one or the other alternative. Invariably, the rational choice is privileged. Boom. Textbook, right? Textbook rationalism. The mistake the rationalist cannot see is that for any object, multiple layers of significance are co-present and efficacious, superimposed on one another. Multiple layers. They are not negating each other like the antithetical dualistic relationship that rationality necessitates, nonsense. They're all there, just like the magic structure and the mythical structure, the mental structure, and the integral structure are all present and efficacious in literally every moment in our lives. Same thing. Any object exists with multiple layers superimposed on top of each other of significance. You can see why Heidegger is a based integral thinker, besides the Nazi stuff. I don't like that. Okay, when they integrate, they allow one to perceive not only the object that is the mug, but its mugness too. To be clear, I'm going to repeat myself. I repeated myself a little bit. To be clear, in relation to the mug example, all layers of significance just touched on, all nodes that we talked on, are co-present and efficacious, all of which are necessary, and none of which has a right to believe the others out of existence. The rational, historical, social, psychological, and other layers of significance form an a-perspectival whole. And of course, a-perspectival is to have multiple perspectives at once. You take the time to learn from the multiple perspectives. Think of the time it takes. Think of Picasso, right? Not just one or the other. This is a-perspectival. It's very obvious to see why this is a-perspectival. Well, there's a rational perspective. In addition to this rational perspective is historical perspective, sociological, psychological. Okay, well, each one has their own validity, which means each one is put into this sort of almost relativist pie, and that's a-perspectival. It's not one or the other. It's all, just depending on which one you're looking at from. Okay. The mugness would not be possible or perceptible without all layers. Okay. A key point that must not be overlooked is the temporal principle. The nodes, like the human who perceives and connects them, are subject to constant change, which is why you love a movie now than you hated as a child. If nothing else, the psychological node has changed, okay? So we have the significance of the film. So we obviously have the significance. I will say the rational significance of the film is like what happens, right? What happens in the film. Michael Corleone, he starts as an ex-military guy, comes in, doesn't want to be involved with the family. Bad things happen. He gets involved. All of a sudden, people realize, oh, wait, this guy's going to be the boss. And maybe this guy, we opened the door that we rang a bell that can't be unrun. So that's like the rational significance of like what's happening, right? But there's also a psychological significance. So when I'm 7 and I'm watching The Godfather, I couldn't care less because it's boring to me. Because my psyche at that time just doesn't care about it. I care about like kid stuff. I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And shit. I don't care about The Godfather at age 7. Are you kidding me? And when my daughter turns 7, I can't imagine she'll care about The Godfather at age 7. So my psyche, when it reacts with the movie, that is a node that informs the significance of that movie. But as I get older, when I was 17 or whatever, and I watched it 10 years later, well, now my psyche has changed. The film has stayed the exact same, but the node, I say the point in the network of relations, has changed. So, of course, the significance changes. Think of it like a disparity that we've talked about in my political playlist. To embark on any successful endeavor, you must attain all the necessary prerequisites to that endeavor, the particular ones, and more importantly, you must possess them all at the same time, and a relatively little change in prerequisites leads to large disparities. Very simple. You could be as good a dribbler and passer and defender as you want if you're playing basketball. If you're 4'8", sorry, buddy. It is what it is. One of the prerequisites has been changed, so therefore you're done. Very similar to the nodes. You change one node and the significance of the object changes. Okay. And now we can lay out the differences between the rationalist perception of significance and ours. The former is static, isolated, set, objective, and interpreted by a neutral subject, while the latter is dynamic, relational, and connected to a world of pre-shaped meaning and biases. That is the difference between what the rationalist is doing and what we're doing. Now, we must return to the seemingly innocuous question that has caused such a stir. What is a woman? Well, the significance of woman is disclosed in the same manner as the mug, through a relational network of meaning, through nodes. So we must examine those nodes, just like we did with the mug, right? Biologically and rationally, a woman is an adult human female. Biology can explain this layer of significance. By the way, distinctions in gametes account for the distinctions in male and female. Also, you could say a woman is anyone lacking a Y chromosome. That also covers everything else, so it's ridiculous. She has certain parts that serve certain biological and natural functions, and this perspective, this node, informs what it means to be a woman. I think you could see where we're going here. That is one perspective. The embodied life of a woman, her quote-unquote lived experience, which I do respect, also creates a node that informs the significance of woman. So in addition to the biological rational view or significance of a woman, we also have the lived experience of a woman. Perhaps she is a mother, sister, or a daughter. Maybe she is an accountant or a rock climber. Maybe she's a teacher or a nurse. What she does on almost a daily basis informs her significance. Social attitudes about women, which change with time, of course, also play their role. If a woman is thought by society to be at home doing domestic labor, and only domestic labor, then this view would create a node connected to others in the network. If a woman is thought to only wear pink or purple, or play with dolls, never action figures, then she is shaped by these demands. In contrast, the same principle applies in reverse. If the previous view is now deemed as oppressive or too restrictive, the new view of her as a liberated boss bitch informs the significance of woman. The plenitude of different views of women reveals the complexity hidden behind the rationalist surface. So, laid it out pretty simply, right? If I have this idea, if what it means to be a woman is to essentially abide by these gender roles and expectations, well, then, of course, if you're a woman, you have to abide by those rules and expectations. That's a node conferring a certain degree of significance in addition to the biological and the lived experience. But, of course, this can change with time. So what happens when postmodernism comes about, or maybe some event comes about, and we look back and we say, actually, you know what? This is kind of ridiculous, and it's too constricting, and it's rationalism, so we're going to liberate you. Well, if a woman is being liberated from the old ways and she's doing something different, the significance of woman has changed, at least to an extent it has. So, symbolically and mythically, a woman's significance is informed by archetypes and grand narratives. A woman is not just an adult human female, but a life giver, the divine feminine, an eternal presence of maternal warmth, the nurturing mother. So there's a mythical perspective that informs the significance, that adds another layer of significance to what it means to be a woman. A woman is a symbol, and hopefully a positive one, which, by the way, I could use a little more. I'm tired of seeing, how about we have a little more respect for, like, women mythically. They are life givers. They should be positive symbols. I'm tired of the modern world we live in, where on one hand, I guess the left kind of does this, but they go too far, and they do it in a rational way. And then the right, they're doing this stupid red pill stuff where women are just don't get me started. God. Okay. Hopefully a positive one. Further, how women are portrayed in art also helps to inform the significance. Hello, someone like Camille Paglia. Okay. This symbolic mythical layer creates another node in the network. Historically, that is, recognizing that the past shapes the present, hello Jean Gebser, the previous roles and achievements of women create another node. To be a woman is to be oppressed, says the feminist after reading the historical counting of the incarceration of a woman's soul. A woman, a layer of significance, a woman is to be sold off in exchange for land, or given away to the most desirable man, not in her eyes, but her father's. If the past shapes the present, then past significance also shapes present significance, right? Which also, you could see how the idea of if to be a woman is to be impressed, you can see very clearly how these nodes interact with one another. They're not necessarily separate. That informs the new social and cultural perspective that women should be liberated. A woman is a bearer of freedom and liberation rather than the old way of doing things where she's just kind of cattle to be sold off for a good dowry. Now we can see the rationalist problem. Walsh, in his attempt to quote-unquote make sense of things, runs into a problem. Excuse me. The rationalist isolates one node, the most rational, or the rational node, from the whole and privileges it exclusively over the others, sectoring apart from the whole and treating the part as if it is the whole. So remember all those nodes I talked about, whether it's with the mug or with a woman. What do rationalists do? They do the either or. They sector apart from the whole, and they transpose the whole into the part. They pretend the part that they've sectored is the whole. So you take the rational node. In the case of women, it's the adult human female, which is true and efficacious, but it's not the only true and efficacious thing. They pit it against the cultural, like the feminist idea, and they say, no, it's only the biological. It's only the rational. It's only the adult human female. This is the fundamental mistake that rationalists make when it comes to meaning and significance. They separate and isolate one layer of significance and treat that one layer as if it is the whole. Ridiculous. The other nodes, whether applied to a mug or a woman, maintain their own presence and efficaciousness, informing the whole just as much as the rational. The difference now is that, with the emergence of the integral structure, attempting to realize the whole and not just a limited part, that is what integral structure is doing, it's attempting to realize the whole and not just a part, the exclusivity conferred upon the rational node has been called into question. The nodes have necessarily been changed or rearranged. Right. So remember when I said the nodes are subject to changing in time. This is why Heidegger calls it being and time. There's a reason for that. The nodes change with time, which means the significance of an object changes with time, which is obvious, by the way. When I look at the moon, I view it as a scientific phenomenon, or a phenomenon of scientific origin and explanation. When someone of the magic structure, or the mythical structure, I should say, perhaps the magic and mythical structures, when they look at the moon, they see the soul, because it waxes and wanes just as the soul waxes and wanes through the life pole and the death pole. So clearly, the significance of the moon has changed with time. And as new things happen, which is to say, as integral structure emerges, I don't think it's absurd to say, hey, times have changed because there are new demands placed on us. So the old exclusivity conferred upon rationality, that's being called into question. Rather than realizing just a part, we're realizing the whole. Okay. The left, in quote-unquote opening up the conversation of what it means to be a quote-unquote woman, will respond to the claim that a woman is an adult human female with the assertion that to do so is to limit womanhood, preventing the admittance of other layers of significance, nodes, into the discussion. So the left is saying, listen, right-wingers, you're being way too constrictive and way too, they wouldn't phrase it this way, but essentially what they're accusing them is being rationalist. And we, as the left, we are going to try to take what has been demoted and realize that and bring that up to balance with what has already been previously promoted. Well, unfortunately, because this is non-conscious, it doesn't work that way. Let's see. If the rationalist reduction of woman, this is a key point. If the rationalist reduction of womanhood has reached its end according to the left, which is to say, when rationalist right-wingers say a woman is only an adult human female, and that way of viewing things is deemed dead to the left, then other perspectives, like social, cultural, legal, and historical, can be offered in its stead. Thus, feminism, gender studies, and women's equity movements were born. So feminism, gender studies, other women's equity movements, they were born as a non-conscious rebellion against the rationalist overreach, the reducing of the network of relations to merely the rational, and in doing so, denuding or extracting all significance from what it means to be a woman and reducing her just to the most, cold, sterile conception of what a woman is. That is what all these movements are really trying to do. What the left is doing, whether they consciously realize it or not, is trying to perceive and realize all layers of significance, nodes, simultaneously. What the right is doing, whether they consciously realize it or not, is trying to perceive one layer of significance, or node, and confer upon it exclusivity. The former has regressed to deficient irrationality, while the latter stays firm in deficient rationality, or rationalism. As one side pulls down, the other feels compelled to do the same, only in the opposite direction. What has happened instead of this integral realization is that both sides have chosen their particularly favored nodes and pitted them against each other. The fatal flaw both sides make is not recognizing that all nodes disclose the significance of the whole. So long as the left continues to delusionally deny the presence and efficacy of the rational biological node, and so long as the right continues to delusionally deny the presence and efficacy of the non-rational nodes, both sides will have glimpsed a fragment that they will take for the whole. If one side wins, it will not prove that they are correct, only that this fragment is more preferable than the others at the moment. Once this fragment is taken to its conclusion and has exhausted all its benefits, the pendulum will swing the other way, and the seesaw from hell will commence. So, if there are any lefties out there, I'm sure there are, you are making a huge mistake when you deny the biological rational node, the biological rational point in the network that discloses the significance of a woman in this case. Don't do this. Stop doing this. What you need to do going further is say, you're right, Matt. it is true that biologically and even rationally, a woman is an adult human female. But of course, there are multiple layers of significance when it comes to women, and we know this because the right also does this. The right takes a very mythical accounting of women. So a woman is not just an adult human female, but a woman is a homemaker. A woman is someone who is pleasurable and adds a presence of warmth and maternal nature and maternal nurturing that is needed. A woman is a life giver. Okay, so use their own perspectives against them if you need to, right? So be like, and then when they say, oh yeah, well, a woman is that too, and you say, okay, well, look what's happened here. So it sounds like we're both correct, and it sounds like your idea of what is a woman as an adult human female, it's not that that's wrong, it's just that it's partly correct. So that's how I think you should attack them going on further. Just admit the biological node. It's first of all, it's delusional to do otherwise. You guys are not living in reality. But you don't have to bite the bullet on everything else. You can say, in addition to the biological, a woman is also whatever. Insert leftist ideology. Take it there. But please stop doing this. Please stop denying. Please stop telling me that males can give birth or men can give birth. Okay, you play word games. Stop doing this. It's ridiculous. Because, of course, when you do that, obviously, like someone like me, and maybe you don't care, but like 10 years ago, when I see stuff like that, that makes me go to the rationalist right like it's nothing. And then you could say, well, who cares what you think? My vote counts as much as yours, my friend. You could have convinced me over to your side, but instead you just decided to throw the baby out the bathwater. You don't have to do that. Throw the bathwater out and keep the baby. Add another if you want. Okay, well, almost done. A woman, like any object, is the point where all layers of significance converge and integrate, the central point at which all meaningful perspectives meet and enhance. To place her in one or the other box is to reduce our women, our loved ones. For too long have we existed as fragments of the whole, parts of a spiritual being. It is time to realize this whole, as everything depends on it. For that, it seems we have women to look toward. Thank you for reading. I want to say something real quick. A woman, like any object, is the point where all layers of significance converge and integrate. What does that sound like, applied politically, applied to women in a political context? Does that not sound like intersectionality? Where a particular woman or person is a point of convergence when it comes to identities and stereotypes and views orbiting or related to those identities. So let's say you're a black woman. You're not just a woman, you're not just black, you are a point of convergence. You are a black woman, right? So I think this integral point of convergence, this intersectionality, is part of a broader four-dimensional game being played. So that's my opinion. That's my article. Again, I would appreciate if you guys checked out my Substack. I think I don't always read every single Substack article I post, so there's probably some in there that you haven't seen. I have one comparing Foucault and Gebser. That was fun. I should probably do that. I just cannot stand Foucault. But yeah, I'll leave a description in the what's it called? Or I'll leave a link in the description box. Excuse me, I'm running on Steam, and I will see you guys soon. I'll try to get a Gebser video out for you guys soon. Let me know if you guys want me to stop the playlist. I think I'll keep my kill rationalism one because that, I don't know, it's neat. But everything else, I don't know. I'm experimenting. So I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Love you guys.